What are you doing here? Well, if you're at Wes's Corner, you're here to watch my video on Bojack Horseman. Welcome, everybody. Today we're just going to jump right into it. First of all, if you haven't watched Bojack Horseman, I highly recommend you do so. It's a Netflix original, so it's pretty easy to come by. Not particularly long, 49 episodes, 23 minutes apiece, so it's pretty digestible. But before you watch it, please make sure that you're right with your mental health, because this show, it'll fuck you up. I ain't even joking there. It is one of the most realistic takes on mental health portrayals that I've seen on TV, and others will agree. Having said that, we're going to focus more on the characters of the show rather than the episodes and their content specifically. So this is not going to be a review of the show itself. We're going to talk about the main cast of characters. There's a cast comprised of 5 different animals, a mix of people and anthropomorphic animals, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. We've got the titular Bojack Horseman, who is a horseman, not a centaur. He's literally just a man crossed with a horse. We've got his wacky but deceivingly wise roommate, Todd Chavez, who is human. Mr. Peanut Butter, an anthropomorphic yellow lab. His human partner, who is also Bojack's ghostwriter and sometimes friend, Diane Nguyen. And finally, the inimitable Princess Carolyn, an anthropomorphic cat, who is once Bojack's girlfriend and agent. There's also a ton of supporting characters as well, each with their own arcs and importance to the story, but we're not going to focus on them today. Of course, we're going to start with Bojack. He's the star of the show. He's also a bit of a narcissist, comes from a broken home, and is part of a cycle of abuse, and as a result of a traumatic upbringing. Over the course of the show, he battles alcoholism, drug use, manipulation, statutory rape, and violence. Also, back in the 90s, he was in a very famous TV show. There's a lot of facets to Bojack. We're going to focus on a couple of different things here. What does Bojack likely suffer from? It's pretty clear by watching that he has depression and also does seem to have some level of narcissism and an alcohol and drug use to exacerbate these things. And we have ourselves a horse without an unstable horse. He does suffer, yes, and he deserves sympathy because depression is not exactly something that can be cured. Just watch the episode Stupid Piece of Shit and see how his internal monologue works. A lot of it can be attributed to his parental upbringing, how his mother and father neglected and abused him, as well as how his Hollywood lifestyle fueled this as well. On the other side, he's a narcissistic, toxic, abusive manipulator. He's turned violent. He's groomed young women, perhaps including Sarah Lynn, even if he did wait till she was 30 to have sex with her. He deliberately waited 17 minutes to call an ambulance for her after her overdose. She may have survived if he'd acted more quickly to save her, rather than trying to save himself from the consequences of her death. Yes, she took the drugs, but he was with her, and he did not stop her. They were on a hell of a bender. He choked Gina Cazador with the intent to harm, under influence or not. He nearly committed statutory rape after providing alcohol to minors. He sabotaged Todd's attempts to get out on his own because Bojack didn't want to be alone. So, as I said, he does deserve sympathy for his not wanting to be alone, his depression, his drug use, but he doesn't deserve a lot. Why doesn't he deserve a lot of sympathy? One word: accountability. He does not take accountability for his actions. He's always worried about how things will affect him, not the others. He ends the series in prison. Nearly every relationship that he had ever formed has been destroyed. Will he end up getting better? It's never said in the show, but I'd like to think that he was able to fight off his demons. At the same time, though, I can't be too optimistic. Next up, we have Todd. Todd doesn't really have too much going on as far as mental health issues goes. He's really comedy relief, but he does have his own deeper moments in the show. A case might be argued that he could have ADHD, what with his wacky adventures, inventions, and occurrences that seem to happen while he's around. He is also part of the LGBTQ community on account of being asexual. And that's actually handled very well. It's not inappropriately made fun of, not really made light of, and he's not asexual just for the sake of being asexual. It actually has an impact in the story and his character development, which is pretty good. There's really not much to say about him, though, in a video on mental health, because his is pretty good overall. He does have some struggles in the series, but he's also one of the few characters early on to call Bojack out on his shit. And let me tell you, that is on point. He tells Bojack to take accountability for his actions, that it's not his past, his career, his parents, or anything like that. It's all because of him. And to see that, it was great. Todd's probably the least toxic character of the whole cast, and I'd say probably the one who's the most well-adjusted out of any of them. Then we have Mr. Peanut Butter. Oh boy. Well, what about Mr. Peanut Butter? He's one of the deeper characters. Don't let his bubbly personality and happy-go-lucky attitude fool you. He's actually pretty toxic too. He's probably the most optimistic nihilist that I've ever seen. He's also selfish. He doesn't listen to Diane, who he's with for most of the show. She hates the grand gestures in a relationship, but he does them because he likes that he's doing something for her, but he's actually doing something for himself. He exhibits troubling behavior in relationships overall. Every woman he dates ends up being younger than the last one. By his final relationship of the series with Pickles, she's in her 20s, he's in his 50s. While technically there's nothing illegal about that, the show doesn't shy away about showing the character's discomfort with the whole idea of him dating someone so much younger. Not only that, he cheats on Pickles with his ex-wife Diane. No, Mr. Peanut Butter, that's not being a good boy. And instead of actually coming clean about it initially, he instead uses the opportunity to propose to Pickles. Like, what the fuck, man? What the hell? Their relationship doesn't last for that and other reasons. Mr. Peanut Butter, oh, bless his heart, he tries to be a good boy. He tries to be helpful, but he comes off as a selfish dick. He is not the goodest of boys. He's also pretty naive. People tend to be able to manipulate him pretty easily, but that's not necessarily his fault. He's a dog. He's a yellow lab. They just love to please people. They're people pleasers. You can't fault him for that. Well, what about Diane? I love Diane, but she gets a lot of hate. She's honestly a pretty well-rounded character, though. And she exhibits some of the best development out of anybody in the series that I've seen. Like Bojack, she does have a pretty troubled upbringing in childhood. She's pretty depressed. That's obvious from early on in the series that she suffers from depression, and it lasts throughout a good portion of the series. Her relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter throughout the series run for most of it is it's pretty sad. They love each other, but they're not compatible. And it breaks down. And she had her issues with that too. She came back from an overseas trip early, and instead of telling Mr. Peanut Butter, made him think that she was still there, and instead crashed at Bojack's pad for several months just getting high. She's exhibited hypocritical behavior in certain circumstances. She's also struggled with her racial identity a bit. Now, we've talked about identity on this channel before. Her being half Vietnamese was hard for her because she didn't feel like she fit in with either crowd, whether it was the white crowd or the Vietnamese crowd. Her diehard feminism earned her a lot of friends and enemies. And when she had a problem with something, she would bust her ass to get to the person or people responsible. Circumstances be damned. But what I love most about her is that she confronted her problems with herself and her depression, and with the help of her guy, she ends up actually getting prescribed medication for her depression. Yes, she gains weight, but she's happy. And that's the important things. She actually took steps to improve herself and stuck with them long term. She did what was right for her. And then finally in the main cast, we've got good old Princess Carolyn. She always lands on her feet, right? Well, when it comes to her career, mostly yes. Her love life, not so much. She's a heartbreaking character, and so multidimensional. Career focused until the end, all she does is work. But it seems like she needs something fulfilling outside of work. On and off again with Bojack until they're off permanently, romantically at least. She still acts as his agent for a good portion of the show. She tries dating several characters along the course of the show. Vincent Adult Man, who is probably just 3 kids stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. I can't 100% confirm that, but I've got a pretty good feeling about that. Or Ralph Stilton, the mouse. He means well, but his family is quite racist against cats, and he doesn't really make any attempt to stop it or defend her. They also come to blows regarding fertility. She has a lot of trouble conceiving, suffering many miscarriages. It's enough to destroy her spirits and become more and more focused on just her work. With that, she's pretty damn cutthroat, too. Kind of toxic there, denying people promotions because she needs them too much, employing dirty tactics to further her own career. Don't be a boss like her if you value moving up in your industry. She's not the best person to work under, I would say. But nevertheless, she does deservedly get her happy ending. She adopts a baby, Ruthie, and the final episode of the series takes place at her wedding. Aww, it's so cute. There's a whole lot more I could dissect within the episodes themselves, more specific moments, but I wanted to focus on the characters and their struggles. But that's really all for today's video. Next time I'm going to discuss autism and the theory of mind. Next couple days I'm going to be taking off for uploads, but after that we'll be resuming our regular schedule. So thanks for visiting Wes's Corner. Goodbye.